Lawyers of Reddit, what is the most badass I rest my case moment you ever witnessed? Wasn't my case, but in criminal docket court one morning the accused wore a pair of very unique custom-made red cowboy boots stolen from the house he was accused of robbing. Wore them to court to plead not guilty. The prosecutor was laughing. I was in an accident a few years ago, other guy's fault. He got a ticket for unsafe left turn, and I got a ticket because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. In the section on the ticket, the cop inadvertently wrote "did wear seatbelt while operating motor vehicle." When I got to court, the judge asked how I wanted to plead. I asked the judge if I could ask a question first, and he said sure. I stated the ticket says I did wear my seatbelt while operating motor vehicle, and if that's the case, I want to plead guilty. The judge looks down at the ticket, and looks back at me and says case dismissed. Have a good day. I did. I used to work in baby daddy court as a caseworker. This guy kept telling me, the mother of the child, anyone who would listen, that the baby wasn't his. When they went before the judge confirmed through DNA testing that he wasn't the dad. Dude turned around and took off his jacket. His shirt said "not the father." This may not apply, but there is a Judge Judy episode where a high school girl is suing two boys from her school for taking her backpack and stealing various valuables out of it, and something like the following conversation happened. Judge Judy: and what was taken from your backpack? Girl: my phone, my money, my headphones. Boy 1: no, they weren't. Judge Judy: excuse me? Boy 1: there weren't any headphones in the backpack. My wife and not me, and it was during sentencing. Mr. Defendant: local gang boss, you stated you are not and have never been in a gang. That's correct. Do you have any tattoos? Yeah, I have a tiger on my calf and one on my chest that says GD for life. What does GD stand for? Gangster Disciples. But, I mean, No further questions, Your Honor. Not a lawyer, but I read about this. Two guys were being tried for robbing a gas station. A customer who saw the robbery was now on the witness stand. The prosecutor asked him to describe what he saw. He said that he saw two guys robbing the store and then running out, and one of them bumped into him. Then the prosecutor looked at the two perps and said, "Are those two men in the courtroom today?" At which point, the two idiots raised their hands. Case closed. Was on a jury. Defendant attempted to rob a tip jar from a barista, and the barista fought back. He ran, and she tossed the empty jar towards him. Defendant claims that he was hit on the head and injured by the metal tip jar. Even though we'd already watched the video, and I already caught this detail, the prosecutor asked to play the video of the robbery again. And then she says how could the barista had hit him in the front of the head, when she was throwing it from behind, and has wearing a hat. She was so annoyed she had to point that out. I almost laughed. Not so much a rest my case moment, but a memorable one. There was a deposition of a witness and a room full of attorneys. Witness is asked if he knows or has spoken with any of the attorneys in the room before the deposition. Witness responds he knows attorney X because sometimes they go to the same parties and snort coke together. Needless to say, attorney X had an immediate meltdown. A good transcript to keep. Not a lawyer, but I once got stopped by a cop for a fix-it ticket. Basically, you have to fix a broken tail light and get a cop to sign the ticket, or pay the fine. That night, my car was totaled by a drunk driver who ran off the road and hit it at high speed. Can't fix a tail light if you don't have the car anymore. So I wound up going in on my court date to contest the ticket. Say sorry, I couldn't get the light fixed and don't think I should have to pay. The judge gives me this look like what's your excuse. Then I hand over the police report papers and briefly explain about the wreck. I didn't have to pay. A friend told me this story. Has not a lawyer but was job shadowing or something and was in court for the day. Anyway, one of the cases was a girl contesting a stop sign violation. The prosecutor asked how long she was stopped at the stop sign and the girl responds 40 to 50 seconds. The prosecutor asks her to look at the clock in the courtroom and proceeds to stay silent for the next 30 seconds, which is a really long time. Once the 30 seconds is up, the prosecutor looks back at her and says, "Were you really stopped 40 to 50 seconds?" And the girl was basically silent. I'm pretty sure she was found guilty. Not a lawyer but just had a case where a guy embezzled and sued us. He had done it by moving money to his company and calling it intercompany loans. His expert witness, who was a CPA, was asked about their one document they had produced, and she said, "As you can see, this document shows that embezzling plaintiff owes your company $650,000. We had no questions and rested right there. He should probably have gotten his CPA on the same page with him. I watched a judge question a person in small claims court about a variety of things having to do with paperwork, guarantees, warranties, photos, etc., and the lack thereof to support the claim. At the end he proceeded to rant on this guy for a full 5 minutes on how he, Planet, had wasted everyone's time, one by one ticking off the failures, and then told him he, Plaintiff, had better hope he never appears in this courtroom again or be held in contempt. The entire room was spellbound. It was better than any TV show. I once got out of a noise violation ticket. I was driving around and had my music in my car up. Cop pulls me over, gives me a ticket for the noise violation. It wasn't even that loud, you couldn't really hear it from outside the vehicle, but my windows were down. So, go to court about it. My defense was, if the ice cream man can drive around blaring that creepy music, I can listen to my radio. Judge tried to keep a straight face, but I got out of the ticket. Definitely not a lawyer, but I once watched my friend get out of a speeding ticket by sheepishly and truthfully informing the judge he was late for a Rolling Stones concert. Judge didn't miss a beat, just accepted the reason and dropped the ticket. Late to the show, but I used to be a domestic violence advocate, and helped victims get protective orders against their abusers. At one hearing, my client told her story of abuse, him hitting her after an argument. The judge asked him, "So did you hit her? Is her story true?" He says, and I quote, "Now judge, it was just a little love tap, you know how it is." The judge blinked twice, stunned, slammed his gavel, and granted her petition. I was in court on a speeding ticket and the case before mine was Fred, the town drunk. It went like this. Judge, Fred, the charges here say you were arrested Saturday night in town drunk. How do you plead, Fred? Fred, I don't know. Judge, what do you mean Fred? Were you in town Saturday night or not? Fred, well that's what I don't know. I have no idea where I was Saturday night, but if I was in town, then I damn sure was drunk. Judge, chuckling. Okay Fred, how's $25 sound? I was recently called up for a child abuse case as the treating clinician. The DA read my chart, asked me some extra questions, and then asked me to send her my resume/CV. She came back the day before trial because the perpetrator pleaded guilty after the defense attorney read my CV of 21 years of practice and a chart that went on for pages about a single injury. Bam, justice served. I am no attorney, but I once fought a complete crap citation and the officers who wrote it up knew they had pulled it out of their arse and did not bother showing up when I appealed it to Superior Court after losing in a kangaroo little court where I saw the officers meet and laugh with the judge beforehand. A respected attorney and friend of the family was a little disturbed with the situation and offered to represent me. The judge took his seat, the case was read out. Then the judge turned to my attorney and said, "What magical words do you have for me today, John?" One of the best feelings of my life. Friend of mine was pulled over and issued a ticket for doing 85 in a 70 while we were in high school, summer of 2002. He went to court, was asked if he could prove that he wasn't speeding. He calmly pulled the keys to his mom's 1988 Nissan Quest, the car in question, out of his pocket, offered them to the judge, and said, "Sir, if you can get that 14-year-old minivan to go 85 miles per hour, I'll pay the ticket." Judge laughed and dismissed the case. My friend is now a lawyer. We honestly don't know if that story is 100% true or not, but according to him, it is. Response from my mom: "A lawyer, I don't remember. If you have to be a badass, you probably don't have a great case." In my line of work, a lot more happens in writing than happens live in court. I once received a brief, a document of written arguments submitted to the court, where the very first page, the table of contents, was printed askew, in a couple different fonts, with some lines capitalized or bolded and others not, following no pattern whatsoever, almost like one of those ransom notes made of letters clipped from magazines that you see in movies, or perhaps something slapped together by a 9-year-old with some Elmer's glue and a photocopier. Then I turned to the second page, and it was an accidental exact copy of the first page. Yeah, you lost me. I was a juror on a drunk driving case. Arresting officer testified that when she approached the car it was pulled over, the drunken owner was standing outside of it, and that the keys were in the possession of someone not at the location. We found the defendant not guilty. As usual, I am not a lawyer, but was a witness in a child pornography case where the defense attorney said that the alleged didn't allow the technicians to log into his computer. I showed him on the check-in sheet where the customer wrote his Windows password under the problem description. I was done with questioning after that. I took debate in high school, 1999. And we had a lawyer come speak to our class. He told us lots of practical advice about law. He told us he once won a case on his opening argument because the prosecution's case was effectively, he was observed doing X, Y, Z and blew a huge number, And the machines are never wrong, and the breathalyzer said he was drunk. Defense lawyer came back with a picture of the shuttle Challenger explosion, which was enough to prove reasonable doubt in the prosecution's case, and the defendant was found not guilty. Another one that was less an I-win scenario than just hilarious. Attorney was arguing certain unconstitutional laws are still technically in place despite being mostly unconstitutional. I can't remember the exact reason for it, as it's been a while, but to do so has arguing using cases about sodomy, fellatio, etc. and getting into the detailed facts of the case. And the judge, she bursts out laughing and had take a short break. Not a lawyer, and this is barely relevant, but I was once showing a new guy around at work and I had just finished saying, "The supervisor back here is kind of a dumbass," when lo and behold, out runs the supervisor, furiously scraping a broom handle on the concrete like he was trying to make fire. He looks at us with his big dumb grin and literally shouts, "I'm making a spear." She was in the right turn only lane, right turn signal was on, street was one way to the right. Did I assume she was turning right? Yes, I did. Got pulled over in my 85 4x4 Blazer after just getting on the freeway. Cop said he clocked me doing 92. I looked down at my console to confirm my suspicion, then turned to the officer and said my speedometer only goes up to 85. Yeah, he didn't show up to court. Had a case where a college teacher faked price tags on wine bottles in a local supermarket. The defense attorney tried to sell the judge the story that it was physically impossible to push a shopping cart and manipulate the price tag simultaneously. The judge went to the supermarket, fully in his robe, with the guy. The judge himself pushed the cart and was able to manipulate the bottles. Of course it's possible, everybody knew it, and the judge sentenced the teacher in the break room of the market, lol. It was a deposition. But basically the guy was accusing my client of violating the Fair Debt Collection Act by sending a collection letter that said his account was opened in 2013, when he claimed it was opened in 2015. I asked him when he first learned of the account. When I reviewed my 2013 credit report, I asked him if he was sure it was the 2013 report. He said, "Yes, 2013. I wrapped up the deposition. Not a court case, but we served a search warrant on a murder suspect's home. The suspect had killed 3 people over money and dope with a 9mm Sig Sauer semi-auto. The suspect was at home in afternoon during search warrant. He was tired from killing 3 people the night before, so he decided to take a nap on the couch while we searched his home for evidence. Long story short, after about a 2-hour nap he woke up and told us where to find the murder weapon. No joke? My boss made a 20-minute speech on why our UN agency should use Spanish language as the main language. I stood up and thanked her for making the speech in English so that we could all understand. She kind of got her way though. She is now the president of Chile and doing a fantastic job. Just today I had a client from out of town in court for a suspended driver's license. He was late and blurted out, "Judge, I drove here as fast as I could." Judge was about to take him in, but fortunately his wife was there and claimed she was the one driving.